So my last video on record types definitely generated some interest and conversation. And in particular, I got a really nice email from a coworker and subscriber named Victor, who said that I had really upset him because he had always worked under the assumption that records were inherently, by default, immutable. And then he sent me some code which seemed to prove that he was right. So then I was confused and I thought, wow, have I really missed something here? Is my understanding totally off? So I went and looked into it a little bit. And what he sent me is really very interesting and definitely worth exploring. And so in this video, I hope we can resolve the question once and for all about the default mutability or immutability of C# record types. So the first thing you see here is a record type called Matthews record. And it's declared in a very traditional way. This is how I usually do it. And I've got some code here in my program that uses it. We create a new one, and in the initializer, we set the number and the flag. And then if we run this, you can see that the number is 5 and the flag is false. Wonderful. So now I want to prove that this record is mutable, that I can change it. So I'm going to say r1.number equals 10 and r1.flag equals true. Let's rerun the code. And sure enough, it's been changed. 10 and true. So this record is definitely mutable by default. And in the prior video, what I showed you was that if you wanted to force it to be immutable, you can decorate these like this. And you declare this as, sorry, switched languages there for a second. You can declare this as a read-only, init-only property as follows. And now if I try to build this code, it's going to fail because the init-only property or indexer number can only be assigned in an object initializer. So this line of code is no longer legal. If I comment it out, we can now see that what I've managed to create, if I comment it out with 2 slashes, that what I've managed to create is a record that is partially mutable. Okay, so now let's take a look at Victor's record. Looks really similar. It's got a number and a flag. Well, let's use that. So we'll say Victor's record, R2, equals new. And in this case, we're going to initialize it like this, 7, true. And then we can write out, I'm going to call that R2, 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 and R2. So this is perfectly legal. Let's run the code, and let me put console.readline at the end. And now when we run this code, you can see Victor's record is being initialized. So the question is it mutable? Let's try to mute it. Let's try to change it, mutate it. So r2.number equals 19. Will that compile? Let's try it. No. And look, it's the exact same error as we got before. Init-only property or indexer, Victor's record.number, can only be assigned at object initialization. So this sure is immutable by default. So Victor was quite right. So what is going on? These two declarations look awfully similar, but they're not the same. This is what's called positional syntax, and I had no idea about it. So thank you, Victor, for introducing this to me. This is a C# language feature that was introduced in C# 9. And really, I think it's easier to understand what's going on here if we change the code so that it looks like that. So this is this positional type declaration where we can create a record and just say that the first property is going to be the number and the second property is going to be the flag. And then you can use it. So if you use this positional syntax for declaring your records, they will in fact be immutable by default. And what it's actually doing is it's shorthand for this syntax. It is exactly creating this kind of property accessor on it. So I don't know about you, but when I look at this and I see how similar they are and how differently they behave, that frightens me just a little bit. And I don't want to be critical, but this kind of syntactic convenience seems just a little bit dangerous to me, because these two representations are so similar and behave so differently. I kind of wish C# didn't have this shorthand. I understand the convenience, but I also understand how, if you don't really understand what's going on, you could inadvertently create records that are either mutable or immutable when you didn't want to. Okay, so there you go. I hope we've resolved the issue. Thank you, Victor. I really appreciate it. And if any of the rest of you have ideas, feedback, comments, corrections, I really encourage you to let me know. I love it, and maybe we'll make a video about it. Okay,